Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about Donald Trump's sort of hedged diatribe against the U.S. Supreme Court. He's been trying from the start to express his support for it, has represented that he would follow what they do, had that thank you to John Roberts during his joint address or just after it, has basically tried to pander to them, although we know his goodwill lasts only until a couple seconds after the next order not going his way. So here he is responding to the Supreme Court's very, very important order. I've both talked about this on YouTube and on my Substack, that the Supreme Court entered in the wee hours of the morning Saturday, most importantly, instructing the administration not to move anyone else out pending further order from the court, and setting up a potential for the court to say you can't move anyone and you must give everyone a due process hearing, which they've done for exactly none of the deportees so far. 3 are now have petitioned, but nothing has happened. And in the latest effort by the DOJ, they simply gave pieces of paper in English, no Spanish, telling them they're subject to deportation, woefully failing to meet what the Supreme Court has specified about notice and opportunity to be heard and where you can be heard and how much time and the like. Okay, so now enter Trump and his, it's very unsophisticated as always, and it seems he doesn't begin to register the notion of the court deciding whether someone is a member of the Tren de Aragua gang versus the administration. And he just demagogues even the Supreme Court when it says there needs to be judicial determination. So Trump says, I'm doing what I was elected to do, to remove criminals from our country. Asterisk. How do we know they're criminals? We know, for example, Abrego Garcia says he has nothing to do with the gang. How does one normally determine that? A court, of course, which he's not understanding. The courts don't seem to want me to do that. So a nasty little, cut to the Supreme Court, but just based on complete ignorance. He says, we're doing an incredible job, but we're being stymied even by the U.S. Supreme Court, which I have such great respect for. So he's a little schizophrenic here and trying not to burn that all-important bridge. But of course, it won't, as ham-handed as he is, he doesn't understand. It will affect nothing. It won't be that the Supreme Court, because he just gave that little nod in their direction, would change their opinion at all. And he just is woefully ignorant about how things work up there, but which seemingly doesn't want me to send violent criminals and terrorists back to Venezuela. So again, he construes this only as the court wanting to, prevent him from sending criminals. And then he specifically tries, at least, to address the notion that people deserve a individualized determination. We cannot give everyone a trial, says Trump, because to do so would take, without exaggeration, 200 years. I don't think so. Closer to a couple months, I would think, to these hundreds of folks in places around the country. But whatever it takes, there's no asterisk and limitation to constitutional coverage if it would take a while. It's the administration, of course, that is fixing to, or trying to deport so many people. Each of those has individual rights, and they have a right for their case to be heard. They have a right, like Abrego Garcia. Note that all the ACLU, initial 5 plaintiffs, all say this, to say, I'm not a part of this group. And so it remains very much to be seen. We may have this, singular horror experience, Abrego Garcia, where the government has admitted that it mistakenly made an administrative error And there may be many more. So, and there's no way to do that without individualized determinations. We would need hundreds of thousands of trials for the hundreds of thousands of illegals we are sending out of the country. Look, there are procedures for immigration. You can't just bypass them. He's trying to, and that's going to create more trouble. But, whatever it takes. It's a constitution we are expounding. What a ridiculous situation we are in, says Trump, kind of, finishing off his bilious invective. So that's the story. Trump is now, come out and, how would you construe that? Seems like about 80%. Pretty insulting to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court's not going to back away, and that means the next time that they reaffirm it, I think you might see Trump just blow a gasket. He doesn't understand, and he sees everything as transactional. I put those guys on, and I thanked John Roberts for the immunity decision, which certainly was a great gift to Trump. So therefore they're on the good team, right? He has no concept of loss. So this is going to potentially, I think, go downhill toward a really kind of nasty standoff, and that I think will enhance the possibility that Trump, for all he said before, will tell the Supreme Court to take a hike when they rule against him, if they rule against him, as I believe they will. And, based on his very blinkered, ignorant way of thinking about things, and notwithstanding everything he said to date, this might suggest that we've got the ultimate showdown of Supreme Court rules and Trump ignores. We'll see. But for now, he is, coming out of the gate really angry and criticizing them, but backing off the gas a little bit to still express his, for now, respect for the Supreme Court. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.